Hey guys, thanks for joining me for another Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia video. Today we're going to do a character guide on Kuja. So Kuja just dropped very recently on DFFOO. He came back with his C90. Not getting a Force this time, but has his C90 rework. So he's a little bit better now, but still not the craziest character in the world. You can kind of evaluate him based on this showcase and what I explained that he does. So he's pretty much just a magic damage holy. He's a magic damage holy enchant imperil character, right? So he's a holy damage dealer. It's pretty much his main role, right? Now when we're looking at his calls are pretty much like like not good. I really wouldn't ever use his calls. Basically his 35 or his normal call just does a debuff, which does a holy imperil and then like a really small speed down, and that's it. Otherwise it's just a holy attack, and then his LD is literally just a holy attack, like doesn't do any buffs or anything to the party. So like I never use these. Like you don't get party enchant or anything out of this. So it's kind of unfortunate. If these at least had holy enchant on them, then they would be worth it, but it's literally a dead call. Like you're never really going to want to use this. So unless literally you're desperate for holy damage to the point where you just want to get like 2 holy attacks in a fight, like for a specific threshold or something, then sure. But yeah, you're really not using that call at all. But let's look at Kuja himself. My Kuja, you can see I've got the burst, but I haven't plussed it, haven't greened it. So this is not a full invest. I've got the Lufenia armor, but haven't plussed it, haven't blued it. Force enhanced 10, not 30. Everything else, though, is pretty much maxed out on this guy. So let's go ahead. We're going to look at his artifacts and his spheres here. So for his artifacts, he's kind of an interesting character in that I think he does a lot of brave damage, and he does a lot of hits. And he can do quite a few like HP dumps in his attacks, and he's mainly a damage dealer. So like attack and brave damage, I feel like are the 2 most important things you can give this guy. So the typical would be to say attack 108, max brave 330, but you might get a little bit more out of something like attack 108 and then like mighty ultima 2-star or mighty ring holy 2-star, because what the 2-star abilities do for the specific attacks is you get 10% extra brave damage. If you do decide to go this route, I would probably just go triple Ultima, because Ultima really is his better attack, and it's more your go-to attack. It's got less skill uses to it, but he has ways to recover those skill uses. It's a high turn rate attack. It helps him get more attacks in. But you could mix and match too. You could do some Ring Holy, some Ultima, combined with Attack 108. Another option is you could combine and just do like Ring Holy Ultima as like a set. You're going to be losing all on those Attack 108s though, and I think Attack 108 is probably your highest priority. So I would try to get 3 Attack 108s, and then do combos of Ultima, Ring Holy, or Max Brave, and you're probably going to be good to go there. So you kind of decide. You can see I've got a mix, and he does have a C50 here too, but it's just Max Brave and Speed is just kind of like a really meh stat. So I would say this would be like kind of last priority over the ones I've mentioned. I would say like first place would probably be, in my opinion, I think the number 1 artifact here is actually probably like Attack 108 Ultima. And then after that, I would say like Attack 108 Max Brave or Ring Holy. And then after that, I would say Attack 108 and C50 would probably be after that. So it's totally up to you, though. Honestly, like calls don't make or break artifacts don't make or break a character. So just decide what you like. But I think Attack 108 for sure, most people would agree is the most important stat there. Then we're going to go ahead and look at the spheres. So really like attack and brave damage, like I said before, really where you want to focus with Kuja. I don't know if I actually knew what I was doing back in the day, but I happen to actually give him like a really good setup. Sometimes I go over these characters that I like, it's been a long time since I've used them or put their spheres on, and I didn't really know what I was doing. This one turned out pretty darn solid. On the A slot, Kuja's own is actually very good. This is a 10% brave damage up for group attacks, and that's kind of what he's all about. He does like pretty much all AoE attacks. Mainly Ultima, which is like his big damage move for like the regular button you're going to press. So I really like Kuja's own on him. And then of course, I've got the Radius Sphere. When you're doing weakness damage, attack and brave damage, I talk about this sphere all the time. So Kuja does hit magic damage, he hits weakness damage, so any of those triggers will work on him. Once again, look through your vast array of A spheres. Look for something Kuja can trigger that's giving attack, brave damage, or both. Magic attack works as well. Magic attack would be good as well, but you can kind of pick and choose. I'll throw out, I think Aerith has like the really big fat magic damage one. So whatever you got there that works. D slot, one of the, once again, many D slot attack boosting. I'll see if I can remember them all. Saz, Lise, Hope, Saz, Lise, Hope, and then Luna Freya is the one that just came out, and I'm blanking on the other one. Saz, Lise, oh, Ashe. Okay, so Ashe, Saz, Lise, Hope, Luna Freya. That's the 5 D spheres that you want that are all attack spheres. And Kuja can make use of any of them. Luna Freya is actually refinable right now. I recommend you all refine up some Luna Freyas because any weakness damage D slot character, Luna Freya is a great slot in there. So if I hadn't already thrown the Saz down, I would probably just toss Luna Freya here because weakness damage is right up his alley, right? All right, so let's hop into the showcase. Take a look at our boy Kuja at work. Like I said, part of the reason that Kuja isn't as hype is partially it's just his simplicity. Like he's just kind of like a unga bunga caveman. I attack you. I don't really have a ton of utility or do much, right? He's literally, I attack, do damage, and I've got some Holy Enchant, Holy Imperil. That's kind of his thing. I would say his greatest asset is giving the party Holy Enchant when he's on the team, especially if you want to run like a Sabin comp or something like that. That's probably his greatest use right now. Once again, you full invest him, his damage is going to be looking pretty good, right? So Luna Freya right off the bat. Let's go ahead and just heavy prayer him up. Make him look pretty good there with the heavy. And then let's go ahead and just, we'll just toss an attack down. I'm not going to worry about getting a force time or anything right here. We're literally just going to show off his kit. All right, so with Kuja, he's got a couple of things going on. You're going to notice he has a 6-turn overhead at quest start. This overhead is called Terra's Crystal. This is probably like his most important buff that you want to keep up. He gets a self-holy enchant. He does a party holy enchant. He's getting like attack up, max brave up, overflow, HP damage, elemental weakness damage up. He's doing that for himself and the party. Okay, so it does a lot. Now you might think, well, why does Kuja need holy enchant? Doesn't he just do holy damage anyways? That's true to a point, but his Ultima, his Symphonic Force, those two attacks, so Symphonic Force, which is the EX, and Ultima, which is the 35, they're actually non-elemental. So he actually needs his own enchant to get holy on those. He has it at quest start, so you don't have to worry. But if that overhead falls off, the party's losing holy, and Kuja's actually losing holy on some of his attacks. And typically when you're using Kuja, you want the holy, you want the weakness damage, because he's doing weakness damage up in the kit. Now, there's 2 attacks you want to open with, one or the other. You want to either open with Ring Holy, or you want to open with, hold on, what one was it? It was Ring Holy or Seraphic Star, which is the LD, okay? And the reason why you want to do that is those attacks have the Imperil, so you want to get the enemies imperiled right away. So I'm going to start with Ring Holy. Ring Holy, it does alternating attacks, so you just have to make sure you pay attention to the order that it's going in case you want to break a certain way. So just keep that in mind, and based on the number of enemies, like the targeting changes, I know it's kind of wonky, right? We've got Rem here. Let's just go and swap turns back to Kuja. So what Kuja got on that Ring Holy, it did that alternating holy attack. He gets a buff called Soul Cleave 4, and the enemies get a debuff called Melodies of Life. So the debuff is kind of like that not-so-great debuff that I talked about on the call. Now, it's good when Kuja's in the party, because the big thing the debuff is doing is imperiling the holy. So yes, that's good. You want that. But then it's got like a 10% speed down, which is kind of like really meh. But yes, you want that Melodies of Life. So you start with Ring Holy or you start with the LD, because those are the 2 ways you get that Melodies of Life on, debuff on the enemy, right? Then after that, you can press whatever buttons you want. You just want to make sure you're really upkeeping that LD buff, right? Let's go ahead and show off Ultima. So Ultima here is just going to be a big fat AoE attack, right? And it kind of triggers twice. Kind of has 2 parts to it. So yeah, 650k AoE right there with my Kuja, which is not near maxed out. That's pretty good. I could see this Kuja, like if you really full invest this guy, he did have Heavy Prayer on, which does make a difference, I suppose. But in that same situation, I could see him near a mil AoE just on his 35 button press. Plus, if you go with the artifact, the Brave Damage Up artifact there, that's really going to help that out as well. So that's why, once again, I recommend the Ultima. Because mine right now, he had 3 Attack 108 330s equipped. But I think Attack 108 Ultima there, he would have been looking a little bit better, right? Well, actually, we don't need to swap in the Kuja. Let's go ahead and do the LD here. since Kuja's coming up next anyways. Okay, so next we'll show off what the LD does. Actually, you know what? Let's just go into BT, because I want to show off his BT effect anyways, and then we can kind of just show off the rest of it. So, sure, let's just go into the BT here. Sure, we can use... So, if you ever do get a free skill use with him... Now, this is coming from Rem, by the way. But this ability recovery is great, because he's going to recover a skill 1 and skill 2. And that's really important for Ultima, because Ultima only gets 6 uses on it. So you want to make sure you use Ultima once before you do anything that's going to recover skill uses to really maximize that, right? So let's go into burst phase here. That way we can just simply go and show off the rest of the kit. So sure, let's do LD. So this is Seraphic Star, which is the LD. This, when it originally dropped, was like the hardest hitting LD in the game. You can see, much weaker by today's standard, 390k. His actual Ultima did more damage than that in this instance, right? But that also gives him a skill use of skill 1 and skill 2. So you want to keep that in mind as well. So actually, when you're in a burst phase, so I actually just did that wrong. When you're in a burst phase, use a skill 1 or skill 2 first, then use that, then you'll get a skill use back, and then you can keep spamming. With my Kuja, it doesn't matter, because my burst phase is way shorter. But if you've got a green Kuja, you want to use skill 1 and skill 2 first, and then go into the LD, and then recover those skill uses, and then you can reuse them again. So that's for like burst order. That part is in particular kind of important, right? But for now, I was just kind of showing you the skills that happen to be the one that I pressed. Let's go ahead and do Symphonic Force. So this is the EX. Now this does have a pretty cool effect on it, okay? So what this does is it gives him a buff called Soul Cleave, and then another buff called Darkness of Eternity, okay? So Soul Cleave is a max brave regen, so it's basically like Eye Brave, and it is a stacking buff, and it goes up to 4 stacks. This buff with 4 stacks is what gives him the plus versions of his attacks, okay? Now, his Darkness of Eternity that he just got with the EX, it does a party attack up and a speed up, but then another part of this effect is it makes it so that Soul Cleave doesn't get dispelled after using plus skills. So basically, it's kind of like Sabin, how like he has one buff that makes it so the other buff doesn't go away or go down. It's kind of the same thing where if you have Darkness of Eternity up, you're going to keep your Soul Cleave up, and that means you're going to keep the plus versions of your skills. So you just want to make sure you're always upkeeping those skills. Now, the 15 and 35, they're also upkeeping Soul Cleave anyways. So as long as you're using those enough, you're going to upkeep it. But having that EX buff up, I think, is worth it, right? And then the LD, the other thing that it did that I forgot to mention with Seraphic Star is that gives you the overhead buff at 12 turns. So you see that went to 12 turns. Mainly, you're just using the LD to upkeep that overhead. Or if you're like in a force time at a really high percentage, you want max damage, you can use it to pop off a lot of damage. But it's pretty much one of those LDs you just want to use to refresh that overhead, right? So let's go ahead and do Ultima again. So we already saw Ultima and Ring Holy. But Ultima, you see big attack there. I forgot to mention earlier, he does get a Max Brave up and a Magic attack up from Ultima, so those are other buffs that you can try to upkeep, and then once again, it's going to refresh that Soul Cleave we just talked about. Ring Holy, we can pop that off again. Once again, the big thing is you gets the Melodies of Life debuff, which puts the Holy Imperil down, and then that also is going to upkeep that Soul Cleave, right? And then, sure, we'll just use this AA to get skills back. Just because. But normally, if you use the 15 and 35 first in the burst phase, then you would recover those. You would have 2 more skill uses there to use. And then he's going to do his trance. I do like the trance that he uses here. I kind of wish him and Terra had their trances as actual costumes. But because they've done it here, I don't think they'll ever do that. But I always want to transform Terra in the game. So his burst effect, the other reason why Kuja isn't crazy hyped right now is his burst effect is pretty generic, right? So the burst effect basically is just a brave damage up, brave damage limit up. It does a stronger holy enchant. So like his normal holy chant is like a holy enchant 20% up. This one's a holy enchant 50% up. But it's like basically 30% better than the other one. So when you have this holy enchant up, you're basically doing 30% more damage on your holy than you do on your normal holy enchant. And then it just has an overflow stolen up. So honestly, it's a little bit underwhelming. Like, sure, it's going to help you with the weakness damage, the holy damage, but compared to what other bursts are doing, like with crazy ridiculous burst effects and auras, like this is like super underwhelming, to be honest. So I only recommend you like full invest this guy if you just love Kuja and you're the biggest fan. You know, like Josepher, if any of you watch his channel, he loves Kuja. So I'm sure he's got his Kuja green and everything, but even he'll tell you like this Kuja, he's not great, right? But in this game, if you've got favorites, always upgrade your favorites. Like I love Final Fantasy VI. I went a little crazy on Sabin. I actually think Sabin's good, but like I wouldn't recommend most people like invest in him, but I love him, so I invested in him. Fun character, so always have fun with your favorites, right? So anyways, guys, there you go. That's basically Kuja. Super easy to play. So just remember, drop Ring Holy or drop the LD right away, put the Imperil on, and then all you're doing is you're bouncing back and forth between your attacks, upkeeping that LD overhead. Make sure in your burst phase, use your 15 and 35 first, then pop the LD, recover the skill uses. Make sure you give yourself skill uses to recover before you use your first LD. So honestly, what I recommend you guys do is open with Ring Holy to drop the Imperil, not the LD, just because then you're wasting those skill use refreshes. Then get at least an Ultima down. And then after you get that Ultima down, then you can use the LD at any point to refresh your overhead. Then you're going to get an Ultima and a Ring Holy back. So anyways, guys, there you go. That's Kuja. Hope this guide helps you all out. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you all on the next one.